American private equity firm came to me. They were already integrating such platforms across Central Europe, and they offered like 12 million euro check to buy me back. And I thought it's too early to retire. So I refused that.
Cześć, witam, dzień dobry, what's up? This is Mike. Today I would like to talk about the word kombinować and how it applies to the billion-dollar man himself, Rafał Brzoska, which I probably butchered the name. How he started this billion-dollar company, InPost, and how great companies are being built in Poland and unfortunately being sold to private equity, American companies, companies from abroad, multinational companies. So this is a really interesting story for me when we talk about kombinować. And before we continue, Polish people, this is my disclaimer. Kombinować for me is nothing but street smarts. It's a way about developing a workaround to get to the solution you would like to get to the goal. So when I look at kombinować, I'm not talking about a negative connotation. It's nothing but positivity and admiration. We are not talking about stealing cars and shipping them to Germany. We're not talking about trying to get over on the system, screw the government over. We're just really talking about pure Polish innovation, kombinować. First of all, before we start this video, we have to know what kombinować is if we're talking to an American crowd.
Kombinować is a very Polish concept. It means cleverly figuring out a workaround, improvising, bending the rules, without necessarily breaking the law, or finding a creative, non-obvious solution to a difficult or restrictive situation. It can have a slightly shady connotation sometimes, like scheming or fiddling, but it's frequently used admiringly for resourceful, MacGyver-style problem-solving, especially when dealing with bureaucracy, monopolies, or stupid regulations.
Okay, so let's get into this video that I originally found on LinkedIn, and then I found the whole video on YouTube. Let's look at how Rafał created his business and how inspirational this is as just a person, especially when you're living in Poland, because I've been in the village. I've lived in a village. I know exactly what it looks like. And I assume I think when you're thinking about your future and you're looking at the current situation you live in, the gears start to turn in your head. And this is what I'm talking about, this Polish innovation, this Polish ingenuity. Kudos to Rafał once again. I hate to keep slobbering over this man. I just think it's a really incredible story how this man started a company.
Okay, let's make the long story short. I was born in a small village in Poland, so no entrepreneurial background at all in
Your
my
parents
family.
went on
Zero,
Wow.
zero. So then I studied in the University of Economics in Krakow, and this was the place where the history started. Previously, I was a little bit entrepreneurial, doing some like assembling computers, for instance, or trying to create some websites, but this was not the business. The real business started in 1999, and I was still a student. When I was graduating, the company I've built in those 2 years was mostly focused on delivery of leaflets, printed coupons
And
of the
flyers.
supermarkets, all the flyers. So
Yes.
this was the main channel of advertising in the 90s for most of the supermarkets. So digital marketing was not non-existing at that moment. And it was really tough because studying and developing your own company, I started just in Krakow. So I started from delivering those leaflets on my own.
And how old were you then?
Yeah, I was 22.
Okay. Yeah.
22. And when I was graduating my university, American private equity firm came to me. They were already integrating such platforms across Central Europe, and they offered like 12 million euro check to buy me back. And I thought it's too early to retire. So I refused that.
So I've spoken to a lot of Polish people, and this is something that, again, when you see a country, I don't know another way to put it. I see a country that has risen from the ashes. Capital Warsaw, the country more or less in many parts completely destroyed. The war ends in 45. Then you have the implementation, the insertion of communism up until 1989, 1990. So I've met a lot of Polish people over my years living here, And I find that most people have the same common denominator as a story. They went somewhere abroad to earn money to bring back home to have because there were no jobs available in Poland. I have a really close friend. She told me a story where she went to Holland. She was in Holland. The type of work she did that she expressed to me, she would work on a farm, sometimes a mink farm for animals, for furs, for coats and stuff like that. Also working in the fields. So we're talking about really labor intensive jobs. I've met somebody who also said they went to France. I remember even somebody not too long ago, very young girl, she went to France to pick grapes for a French winery. So it seems Poland has this history with, I guess, cooperating or going elsewhere to earn money because there were just not jobs available in Poland. So it seems like after the fall of communism, it was very stereotypical or very normal or normalized to see Polish people go to other countries in Europe to earn a living, primarily for the summer, bring that money back home, and were able to live off of it until the next season. So for this man in 1999 to already be thinking of something, how to start a business, shows you how open the market was at this time. He was delivering leaflets. My man was delivering junk mail in 1999, and that was a company he created, and a private equity back then wanted to buy it out even 20 years ago.
And Poland at that moment was in a kind of aggressive growth mode, yeah. So privatization and turning from communism,
To
state-owned capital into really like free market economy.
Yes.
And this was, of course, a huge chance, a lot of risks. But then I started like thinking, what's next? As the flyer business was all about to shrink because e-digitalization. So I knew this will not be a sustainable business forever.
Yeah.
So in 2005, I decided to enter into postal market and set up like private postal company.
And there was nothing like that back then.
On the private side, no.
No,
It was
yeah.
just state-owned Polish post.
Yes.
Pure monopoly.
Pure monopoly coming out of a communist system.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
This is also something that, I believe, in hard times, it creates the character of people. It shows you the true character of people. So when you're state controlled for 40 years plus, you have to be creative. How to market yourself, what avenues to explore to create this new wealth in a country. So it's amazing that this guy was thinking in such a way like, hey, this is not sustainable. This is a man forward thinking. And so when you have too comfortable of a society like the United States, who are unwilling to sacrifice anything at this point, you can see now in Poland, the life in this moment, in this span of time, is a very comfortable place to live.
on the private side, no.
No,
It was
yeah.
just state-owned Polish post.
Yes.
Pure monopoly.
Pure monopoly coming out of a communist system.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there was the main barrier was the legal barrier, because I knew that I have everything. I have 7,000 people delivering those flyers, coupons, leaflets, and so forth. We have like domestic coverage. And I thought it's so easy to go from a leaflet to a letter that it was like, very childish idea. Let's jump into that business. And then I realized that there is one critical barrier that was created by the law system, that state-owned Polish Post may deliver all the letters below 50 grams as the only company in the country.
And nobody else can go
Under I can
50.
just compete above 50 grams. And this was 2% of the market. So this was
under 50 was 98% of the market.
of the market.
Wow.
And the beauty of, I think, entrepreneurship is finding the way.
Find the way. He just said it. You have to find a way. We have to have this workaround. And it's a prime example, again, as nothing but admiration for this guy. This is the most modern day example you can really live out as Kombi Novac. I don't know if I have any other examples of what Kombi Novac actually is and what this video was about. Finding a workaround in a situation, in circumstances that you know do not make any sense whatsoever.
So I thought, okay, if I want to step into that market, I should convince my clients to make the letters heavier, to be above 50 grams. But traditional letter is 5 to 6 grams. To how to make it heavier to allow other companies offering like
A better
competing better
service,
service and better
yeah.
price. So we convinced them to glue on top of the envelope a metal plate. we named it a seal, a protection seal, and advertisement seal, because you can engrave logo, for instance, on
Yes.
top of it. And the weight of that seal was 50 grams. Means every single letter
Was 50 above 50.
Above 50.
Where did you get that
That
idea
was
from?
I'm very often I say this was the first and the most important innovation in
Yeah.
InPost history. So yeah,
And was the company called InPost then?
yes,
So,
that was the
so once
moment
you-
we
yeah.
named InPost.
Okay.
This is, again, I will not repeat myself, so I'm going to go in a different direction. If you look at Polish cinema during the communist times or during the times of communism, you can see many, many examples. One of the favorite movies that I've watched, or one of my favorite movies that I've watched in terms of comedy, is Mish. There are so many absurdities there. You can see this throughout Polish society if you live here. So, consortium including FedEx to buy Poland's InPost in a 7.8 billion euro deal. Let's take a look at this. A consortium including FedEx has agreed to buy Polish delivery firm InPost in a deal that values the company at 7.8 billion euros, 33 billion zlotys. Jesus. The move is intended to provide FedEx with access to InPost delivery infrastructure in Europe while helping InPost expand. The deal, which is expected to be completed in the second half this year, will see InPost, which has rapidly grown its operations in Western Europe in recent years, maintain its brand and continue to be headquartered in Poland and led by its founder and CEO Rafał Brzoska. I love this guy's look, by the way. I wish I had a head that smooth. In January, InPost announced that it had received a preliminary takeover offer, but did not disclose the identity of the potential buyer at the time. It has now been revealed that the offer comes from a consortium made up of FedEx and InPost's existing investors, Advent, A&R, and PPF. So I was under the impression this was a singular figure that owned this company, but I guess there's other investors involved. And this is how cooperation is required if you're going to have a billion-dollar company, or at least a multi-million-dollar company. You need investment, you need capital. I wish I had capital. So under the agreement, FedEx will take 37% stake, as will investment firm Advent, which currently owns 6%. A&R, the investment vehicle of CEO Brzoska, will increase its holding from around 12%, 12.5% to 16%, while Czech investment group PPF will reduce its stake to 10%. From 28.75%. Okay, so we're getting bought out here. So I want to show who owns FedEx. FedEx is a publicly traded company, meaning it's owned by shareholders with the majority of over 68% held by institutional investors. The largest institutional shareholders are Vanguard and BlackRock, while founder Frederick W. Smith remains a significant individual shareholder. These companies stand back and they look at companies grow, and they swoop in and they buy them and they add them to their portfolios for performance. And this is how Americans are able to retire or have some type of retirement savings. So I don't know if that exists here in Poland. I would say, as an American, you might want to start looking at this, because I know the government system in terms of retirement is not going to give you a lot of money when you retire. You're probably not going to have a lot of money unless you save on your own. So Vanguard and BlackRock, huge asset managers. And as I said, if we look at it, let's look, the largest institutional investors, 8.9% and 4.5% respectively. Other major holders include Dodge and Cox and State Street. These are all American private equity firms, asset management firms. So my question is to Polish people: why do you create good companies and you wind up selling them? Another example I have is Żabka. Żabka, really fantastic convenience store like 7-Eleven, sold to a foreign entity. 11 Labs, in terms of AI, 11 Labs is one of the greatest tools invented in terms of voice recognition or creating voices, speech to text translations. So I don't know, Polish people, like, should you, I guess my question I'm posing to you is, should you keep your companies and grow and see how far you can grow them domestically? Or is this just the way business is? You create a good company, you make it as big as possible, and then you wind up selling it off to foreign companies. But my point is, when you do that over a period of time, what's left for Poland? These private equity companies, they might say, "Hey, listen, we had a bad fiscal year. We need to trim some of the fat. We need to lay off people." We can see in Oracle, they've laid off 30,000 people. Amazon has probably laid off at least 100,000 people. Microsoft has laid off a lot of people. So Google, another company, another example. So my point is, Polish people, instead of maybe selling your companies to private equity, which you don't control the majority anymore. You're just basically you're like a shadow owner. So these are the companies that own FedEx. Again, Vanguard, almost 10%. BlackRock, I can't tell you how big BlackRock is. BlackRock owns communities. BlackRock has a tremendous portfolio when it relates to development of homes. Today, as we know, InPost, it's a great company. I would like to see what InPost looks like 5 years down the road after this acquisition, this merger. If there will be layoffs, what happens with the economy on a global scale, how this might impact InPost. Again, I'm just speculating, but I think once you start selling a company such as InPost, maybe they'll find other ways to automate, be more innovative. We can see in the United States, I'm sorry to tell you, Polish people, there are already drones delivering packages. So I know Poland wants to get into the drone making business, and maybe this will eventually lead to potential layoffs in the future. But if you follow the United States model, there will be some layoffs in InPost in the near future because we have gone to the model already where we have drones delivering packages to people's homes. So again, Polish people, I think that's something to look out for. Look 5 years down the road and see how some of that technology might be introduced to Poland. So this is Mike. I like to play devil's advocate. Please tell me what you think about my analysis about Rafał and his company, what you think about the merger and acquisition and actually the selling of part of the company to FedEx. Let me know. As I said, I like to be devil's advocate. I like to look at things through a different lens and an analytical lens. Let me know if you agree with me, disagree with me. If you'd like to add something to the conversation, leave a comment in the comment section below. Thank you for spending time with me. See you on the next one. This is Mike. Cześć.